Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's video. This episode will guide you through the issues of the Uncanny X-Men published by Marvel in 1983. Issue 169. Candy Southern is arriving at her home in Manhattan. She's living in a penthouse that belongs to the former X-Men Warren Worthington, also known as Angel. She's calling out for her lover but gets no response, so she makes her way upstairs. There she doesn't find Warren either, but instead finds feathers lying around on the floor, and also some blood. She notices sound coming from downstairs as the lights in the apartment get turned off. She realizes she's in a lot of trouble, and instead of approaching the intruders, she heads for the phone and speed dials Professor Xavier. He picks up and she quickly tells him who and where she is and what's going on, as much as she can. The intruder has come upstairs and approaches her, telling her that he's Thunder and he's here to hurt her. In Amanda Sefton's apartment, Nightcrawler and her are enjoying the luxury of a bathtub, each other and some drinks. Kurt asks her when she plans on giving up her job and settle down a bit. When she tells him she could ask him the same thing, he tells her that she should and that the answer might surprise her. They get interrupted by Xavier hailing Kurt, telling him there's an emergency and gives him telepathic directions, to which he immediately reacts. In a series of teleportations, Kurt moves himself to the side of the skyscraper that houses Kenny and Warren's penthouse. He totally forgot how cold it was outside and is not wearing any clothes, and he's still wet from the bath he was in. He's literally freezing. He's still in telepathic contact with Xavier, and he tells him he senses Warren's thought patterns below him. Warren's thoughts are sluggish, as he's barely conscious. Kurt tells Xavier that he spots someone carrying Angel and that they're heading down the subway entrance. Kurt asks Xavier what about Candy and if she's alright. But before Xavier can answer him, she gets thrown outside through one of the windows of the penthouse. Luckily, Kurt is there to intercept her, and since he's still freezing, he grabs her and teleports her back to Amanda's place. Kurt teleports back the way he came, and ends up above the bath he left and splashes right in there, with Amanda still in it. On another side of Central Park, at the exclusive secret society called the Hellfire Club, Sebastian Shaw enters through the club's front door. This man, who currently wears the mantle of the Black King of the inner circle of the club, is a mutant. As the leader of the secret cabal of the club's inner circle, he does not concern himself with using his mutant abilities or his power for human benefits, but simply for personal gains and world domination. To him, the X-Men are the biggest threat to achieving this goal, and they have stood in front of one another more than once. He only just recovered from their recent altercation, but he's a patient man, and he knows the X-Men will make a mistake and lose the battle one day. As he steps into his office, he makes his way through a secret door behind the bookshelves to another part of the club. Here, Tessa has been waiting for him. She summons Shaw with urgency, and Shaw wants to know what's going on. She tells him to come take a look for himself. Emma Frost, the White Queen of the Inner Circle, is lying there, unconscious. Tessa tells Sebastian that Emma had come here an hour earlier and was desperate to see Sebastian. She looked afraid and terrified, something which Tessa has not seen her before, and this was unnerving to her. Tessa tried to find out what had caused this, but Emma did not want to tell her. She said that it was for Sebastian's ears alone, and Tessa feels like Emma was trying to protect her somehow. Sebastian asks Tessa why she did not simply reach out telepathically, and Tessa tells him that she probably wasn't able to, probably caused by the same thing that attacked her in the first place. Sebastian tells Tessa to elaborate, and she tells him that Emma collapsed mid-sentence. Tessa had been examining her after that, and diagnosed her current status as total catatonic schizophrenia, a total withdrawal from reality which she cannot describe other than bordering on living death. Tessa tells Shaw that Emma Frost's psychic defenses were formidable, and that for someone to pull this off would require an enemy of phenomenal strength and skill. Sebastian says that the only person he can think of that fits this description is Charles Xavier, but he doubts Xavier would do such a thing. Tessa asks Shaw why someone would not just simply kill Emma if they wanted her silenced, and Sebastian tells her that this is a pure display of power. The person who has done this wants the Hellfire Club to know that they're pretty much powerless against him, or her. Shaw is overcome by fear for a moment, and somewhere, someone is laughing. Later that evening, in Amanda's apartment, the X-Men have gathered and Candy is slowly pulling herself together, recovering from the assault. She tells the X-Men what had happened to her for as much as she's able to. The face of the assailant, Sunder, was covered in rags, so she can't really give a clear description of him. Luckily, Nightcrawler saw which way they went. He sneezes, and Colossus suggests that he should just go to bed, since he sounds pretty miserable. Kurt tells him that he would like nothing better. But with Wolverine currently in Japan, taking care of his personal business, they're a little short-handed. Amanda, being a sorceress, thus not without powers herself, offers her help to Storm. But Aurora says that she'd rather have her take care of Candy in case the attackers return to try and finish what they had started. Aurora mentally reaches out to Professor Xavier, telling him that they're about to go on their way to try and find Angel. She asks him if they can use Wolfsbane of the New Mutants team, because they're lacking a tracker with Wolverine being unavailable. Xavier tells Storm that he's not willing to send one of the kids on a mission like this, with all the risks involved. The mini Cerebro device he gave her should suffice, but Storm does not like to put her trust in machines. Kitty tells Lucky to stay behind with Amanda and Candy, which he does not like, and he starts to grumble. But Kitty tells her that she's not doing this to be cruel, but she wants Lucky to help protect Candy if necessary. They have a conversation about what exactly Lucky's reaction to this would mean, and if he should be considered a pet, if he's even full grown, or an infant, or anywhere in between. They actually know little to nothing about him. Kitty tells Amanda that Lucky's been fed, and Amanda tells Kitty in return that her mother told her one or two things about handling dragons and that they should be fine. The X-Men have descended into the subway station, and Storm asks Nightcrawler what exactly he had seen. He tells Storm that he went down there after he had dropped Candy off at Amanda's place. He couldn't find any kind of trail since it was crowded with police and paramedics. Somehow the clerk at the token booth had suddenly fallen very ill. From what Kurt was able to find out, the man was barely alive. He tells Storm that he fears that their opposition won't pull any punches in getting what they want. Storm uses her device to track Angel and finds out that he's very far below them, realizing now that she never knew the city went that deep underground. She establishes telepathic contact with Xavier, but he tells her that there's some kind of disturbance ever since they went underground, and he's not sure if they can maintain contact if they go any deeper underground. Aurora decides that they must risk going deeper, for Angel's sake. As they progress, a train approaches them, and they have to flatten themselves tight against the walls. Storm's starting to stress out, because of the trauma she's endured as a child. The passing of the train, the noise it brings, the filth and the stench down there, are triggering memories from when she was buried alive as a kid, resulting in a severe case of claustrophobia, which she only barely maintains a grip on. The tracking device leads them to a point where there seems to be just a solid wall. Kitty fades through the wall and finds another entry with steps leading downward, telling Storm how she's dissatisfied with her current codename Sprite. She tells her she thinks it's too childish for an X-Men. She also mentions this place gives her the creeps, a sentiment which is shared by the others. Colossus starts to wonder if people actually live down here. Storm tells him that the outcasts from society, people who do not want to be found, will thrive in places like these. While she's explaining this to Colossus, they're being approached by attackers who regard them as intruders. A fight ensues. Colossus falls down the stairs due to the railing collapsing under his weight and that of his attackers. Storm is barely able to use her powers on the ground and is only able to generate sufficient wind to fly in these close quarters, as she tells Kitty to scout the surroundings. In the meantime, Colossus is able to get the upper hand on his attackers. The fight is being watched by others close by. These people are also mutants and go by the names of Sunder, Mask, Callisto and Plague, and they are laying low to observe the intruders in their territory and learn more about their powers. These four are found by Kitty. She recognizes Sunder from Candy's descriptions, and she tries to get a little bit closer to gain more information, as her scent is being noticed by one of them. Callisto tells Plague to attack Kitty and she tries to grab her. Kitty uses her phasing powers in time, but somehow still notices a tingle when the old lady's hand passes through her. Sunder smashes the wall Kitty had just phased through, but Callisto tells him to just let her go for now, since they can't hold her anyways with powers like these. She adds that if only one molecule of Plague's manifested disease has latched onto Kitty, she's as good as dead. In the meantime, Nightcrawler has managed to deal with the people attacking him, and he offers his assistance to the others. Storm thanks him, but she's been able to use her wind-generating powers to take care of hers. And suddenly, all of the attackers are gone. The attack was broken off, and they fled, taking their unconscious fellows with them. Storm's worried about how this had just been a test to find out about their strength. Colossus wants to look for Kitty, who should have been back by now, but Storm tells him that they can't really go look for her, since they have no tracker and the mini Cerebro is set for Angel and she can't recalibrate it. She suggests to push on in a search for Angel and hope for the best. Colossus tells her that they can't desert Kitty and he asks Storm if she doesn't care. Storm thinks to herself how he could ask her that, since she loves Kitty like she would her own daughter, and if anything would happen to her, she would blame herself. But as the leader of the team, her responsibility is to the whole team, not a single component. Kurt notices a change in Storm's demeanor, and that she hasn't answered Piotr's question. He notices she's acting cold and distant, and tells her that he thinks they're badly outnumbered and could use reinforcements. She asks him how he suggests they contact Xavier, since they're so far on the ground that they would have to go back up. And if they do that, assuming that's even possible, they have no influence what happens to their friends. Finally, she asks him who they would ask for, since the X-Men are pretty scattered as it is, and they're pretty much on their own. Kitty made her way back to where she had left the team, but they're no longer there. She struggled to get there because she's gotten very sick all of a sudden. She falls headfirst in the sewers, but gets picked up from there by Caliban, someone who has been living on the ground for a long time and who has had a run-in with the X-Men before. Caliban has been alone for a long time, but he can sense people who are quote-unquote like him. He had tried to abduct Kitty before, sensing she was like him and thinking together they could be happy. In the end, Kitty got rescued and Caliban was offered a safe place despite his looks with people like him. But he decided to go his own way as he had always done. But now, with Kitty arriving here in his home, being sick, Caliban figures that he will take care of her, heal her, love her, and she will love him. Nightcrawler, Colossus and Storm have descended even deeper below the city and are amazed at the well-maintained, ages-old construction work down there. They get blinded by spotlights which are being turned on all of a sudden, and they can hear the voice of a woman who tells them to stand still or get struck down immediately. Nightcrawler whispers to Storm if she has any orders, and she whispers back for them to stay loose and to let her host make the first move. She introduces herself and her fellow X-Men and says that they're looking for a friend. She gets asked in return if she means Angel, and if so, they're in luck, because he's right here. That's when they notice that a railroad car has arrived, which they could not hear or see approach due to the bright light and loud sounds from the booming speakers. And that's when Callisto introduces herself with Angel next to her, almost naked and all tied up. She tells the X-Men that she and her companions call themselves the Morlocks. She also tells them that they had better talk to her in a respectful way, or they will either lose their tongues or their heads. And as for Angel being here, she tells them that every princess needs a prince, and she has chosen the most beautiful man in the world. Colossus asks if she had really done this out of love, and Storm responds by saying that this has not been done out of love, but out of desire, which are two different things. Storm is immediately reminded to when she was a young girl of the age of 12, when she saw a man gaze at her, like an object to be possessed, regardless of her emotions and wishes, like a prize to be obtained. She knows that she would not have been able to resist, but instead would have been used and slain. So she ran away from everything she held dear to stay safe. Callisto tells the X-Men to make themselves comfortable so they can witness the upcoming ceremony. This place is no place for a man to fly, so she's going to make sure that Angel will never be able to fly again. As she's about to cut Angel's feathers, the X-Men know what's about to happen and they attack. Nightcrawler teleports on top of Callisto and tells Storm and Colossus to free Angel from his captivity. Callisto calls her Morlocks to her and tells them to rough them up as much as they would like, but she wants them all alive. They attack Nightcrawler first and dispose of him. Storm tells Colossus to get him to safety, while she will attack and try and distract Callisto's enormous army. She flies up in the air, about to summon winds and lightning bolts, but gets shot down by Callisto with a slingshot. Colossus is being trampled by the rest of the Morlocks army, and since he's pulling his punches as to not cause injury to these people, he gets overwhelmed and succumbs. As Colossus passes out from the pressure, somewhere else, Kitty starts to regain her consciousness. She notices the sensations of her body and it doesn't feel good. She asks where she is, but there's no answer at all. As she tries to get up, she throws up and realizes that she's never felt this sick and weak. She tries to collect her memories of what happened and where she might be, as Caliban enters the room she's in. She recognizes the sound of his voice, but can't recall from where. She She yells out for Storm as she passes out. Caliban catches her and concludes that the medicine he has given her are not helping. Blake's attack must have been deadlier than Caliban suspected. Kitty's burning up with fever and he fears she's dying. He cannot allow this, and he will even defy Callisto herself to get Blake to heal her from the disease she's given Kitty. And then, once Kitty finally realizes Caliban is the one that saved her, she will remain with him in his catacombs forever. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, because that will help me out in growing the channel and being able to produce more videos like this one. See you next episode.